What's up everybody, Tom here with another video. In today's video, we'll be talking about the latest stock market news moving the markets right now. We'll also be talking about the internet versus Wall Street, a series of Twitter posts, a series of forums, basically leading to one of the biggest stock rises we've ever seen over a week. This is truly something for the ages. We'll also be talking about a technical analysis for the S&P 500, NASDAQ, gold, Bitcoin and US dollar throughout this video. So there's a lot to unpack in what is earnings week, and it seems to be now Twitter week. Stay tuned. So as we like to do on this channel, let's get started by talking about what's going on in the markets over the last 24 hours. And we saw some moves in the FANG stocks, just slightly up. Things like Microsoft, of course, Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc. Standouts were J&J, Johnson & Johnson, and of course IBM and 3M, all up around 3%. Pretty nice returns for them over the last 24 hours. Some of them, of course, had their earnings reports as well. When we're talking about earnings reports, what else was going on? Well, we've got Wednesday here. After the close is the key. We've got Apple earnings, Tesla earnings, Facebook earnings. We even have McDonald's the next day on the Thursday open. There's a lot of huge bits of news coming out from the earnings reports, and you should always have one of these earnings calendars, and one of the best places to get them is of course the Earnings Whispers website. But I want to talk about more than just the mega earnings that are going on, which should be of course moving market sentiment. And I want to talk about this fight between what is the internet, it seems, and of course Wall Street. This has become a phenomenon over the last week, and of course we're talking about GME, Gamestop, a company that sells video games and video game consoles and a bunch of other little weird things. But basically now it is, what is this company worth and how far can the internet push it up? So we saw a few big names getting involved in this yesterday. We've got Chamath here saying that he bought February $115 calls, and he goes, let's go, because of course this is all about the FOMO into this stock. We've got Elon getting into it as well, just saying Gamestop and literally linking Wall Street bets, which is pretty much where all of this activity is coming in from. And what has this led to happening? Well, if we have a look here at Gamestop, check out this chart. It's not even just about where it went to at the end of the day. We had a 146, but after Elon's tweet, you heard it right, $215 post-market. So that caps at 92.71% day with the aftermarket movement of 46% almost over that time. That is a phenomenal rise. When we think about this, this is a 1 hour chart. I'm not actually using a daily here. This is a 1 hour. So if we go back to the 12th of January, this is like cryptocurrency style moves. $20 to $216. And we've been talking about this in the live chat. It's so difficult to even consider shorting this company. And I feel really kind of almost bad for some of the guys that have been shorting it, because this isn't a fundamental driven thing. It is literally just the power of people piling in and hopefully not being the ones left holding the bag at the end. Because while GameStop might go to $300, $400, a lot of them want $1,000 or 1337 on Reddit. I've seen that quite a lot. This particular stock is out of control in terms of valuation to what the company is. I do find this funny, and I think this is also a very interesting test case of the market that we're seeing right now. This is the type of thing that you would always expect to happen around bubble kind of times in the market, where everyone feels, I guess you could say, invincible. And this stock, look at this, even during this time, 217 now in the post market. It's still trading up even as we speak through the post market. It's been doing some big numbers in the futures markets and then opening usually a little bit lower. And then of course, it's just been pumping higher each time. And from a TA perspective, what's been happening? Well, really, you can't do much other than just say, okay, it's hit this 20 exponential moving average a few times. That was where it pumped down to. And every time it hit that so far, the 1, 2, 3, it's bounced off. Now it is in the stratosphere, 217. So very, very high. Interesting times. Definitely something you want to be cautious of. But this is happening across BlackBerry. It's happening across AMC. And of course, Gamestop as well. Let's get now into some of our other technical analysis. Of course, start talking about the other markets around the world. One of those, US dollar index. What's been going on with the US dollar index? Well, we have the FOMC statement Thursday, my time this week, Wednesday in America. And this particular bit of news, when we see that statement, will probably define what the US dollar is going to do over the next coming weeks and months. Basically, the US dollar is very difficult to trade right now. We've got it stuck between this 91 and this 90 zone. These two areas are really the key critical points. You can see it was support last time, support just above the 90 recently, and then the 91 acted as resistance and resistance. I find that there's not too much direction right now inside of this. There's a lot of noise that's going on from these technicals, and it's not something that I'm generally very interested in trading, purely because I don't like trading too much against the grain in terms of we don't know exactly what that result's going to be, and I prefer trading when a direction is defined. If a direction's defined underneath the 90, then we know that it's going to probably gravitate towards these lows of 89.20. If we see a bounce and we see it move back up to the 91, we could have potentially a shorting opportunity at the 91. And then if it breaks through that point, of course, we have the movement up to 92. That's what I prefer to do from a technical analysis perspective. I prefer to take the consideration once the money flow starts coming in and it pushes in a direction that gives us a clear trend and a clear area. It still remains in the longer term, of course, downtrend. We can see here that we still haven't even gone above the 50 exponential moving average, this blue line. And if you go to the weekly, we're still really looking at the 20 moving average here on the weekly being the most important point if it was to bounce up. If it's to bounce up, this 20 moving average will most likely act as the dynamic resistance like it did before. Let's talk about what's happening with gold then from that perspective. Here we've got gold on the daily, and you can see it's been slowly going down as the last couple of days have come out, and we've got 1848. I think a little bit of this is also money is moving out of gold and going into some of these other markets that are getting good returns right now. We can see that this 1850, 1848 area has been some buying pressure for gold recently. Obviously, a close underneath this, we're on the 4-hour here, might be important, and that area could push down further back down to this 1830 kind of zone. But this is important other aspects here. We've got a series of lower peaks coming through on gold here. Not what we want to see if you're a gold bull. You prefer to see, of course, a series of higher peaks. Now, if you put a trend line there, what's happening right now, it's basically descending into this zone. Now, we've got this important area. We've got basically a support round here that's acting a little bit too strong right now. That's acting like a support, but it has breached once before, but always the bodies have been here. And we've got a series of lower peaks showing a weakening market. If gold's able to bull and get through this zone, this will probably act as dynamic support then in terms of a trend line. And then, of course, we hopefully move higher. If we fail to hold this level here, we most likely move down towards the 1830 again. And then most likely we'll find buying pressure. But again, it's all about the FOMC statement right now and what is entailing in that. Will the US dollar go up or the US dollar go down? That will certainly make a big difference to the gold trade. Silver, kind of similar. If we go down here into the daily, you'll notice it's trading within a range. Now, we are a little bit more bullish on silver on this channel, purely because of its uses in, of course, construction and its uses in the recovery of economies around the world. But again, we're just looking at that statement coming out, and we do expect that maybe it'll just kind of hover around. This isn't as bearish as gold in terms of the series of lower peaks, but again, we have a peak, a lower peak, a lower peak, and a very similar kind of support zone that's coming through here, and that's at that 25-20 zone. Do I like any of these things? Not so much right now. I like to have clearer direction, and we're just not getting that right now on silver and gold. If we take a look at Bitcoin, what's going on with Bitcoin at the moment? Well, Bitcoin's kind of stuck in a range as well. If you think about the longer term kind of symmetrical that we've had recently on it, you'll notice that this did break through. It's gone down to the 50 exponential on the daily. A few people are talking about the 20 exponential on the weekly as well. And what that means, that's sitting at around 23,000. Do we see a pullback further than where we are right now? One thing I'll say is that when you're looking at seasonals for Bitcoin, it seems to trade this very much. Basically, we are looking at a point where we're about to come into Lunar New Year. Usually the week of Lunar New Year is pretty much like that. It's just range bound. If we continue to range now for the next couple of weeks, And then the week after the Lunar New Year usually is a positive breakout. So the longer we range here and the longer we coil, the actual better it should be for bulls of Bitcoin. If we do see a break after the Lunar New Year as well, that would be very, very strong, because historically that's been a strong signal. We talked about that a few weeks ago in our videos. I definitely encourage you to go back and have a look over those. So right now, Bitcoin stuck in a range, really not making too much headway from the bulls and the bears. And you can see the 20 exponential moving average on the daily, an important area that it did get rejected from, and the 50 exponential moving average on the daily, an important area that it did get rejected from over here on the left-hand side. So we're stuck in the range. We're coiling for now, waiting for a breakout to either side, and of course, possibly waiting for that Lunar New Year event to occur, and then maybe for the next move up. What's going on here in the stock markets right now? Well, we have Gamestop, of course, doing its own thing. It doesn't really care about the general market conditions, but we still continue to see a series of relative bullish movements here from the S&P 500. We have a very clear trend line for the resistance, and I think this has just been such a good take profit level, with the 20 moving average continuing to be the best kind of buying zone so far. Do we have a catalyst though now for a potential turnaround? Well, 3,800 was reached, then it bounced up, and you'll notice it made a bullish hammer. Everyone knows this candle as a bullish hammer. The importance now though is if it comes down, we've got two things here. Let's say it comes down off this point and it breaks and closes underneath this bullish hammer as a bearish candle. At the same time, it would be breaking under the 20 exponential. It would also be breaking under the last time it had a very aggressive bullish kind of rush on it to the hammer. If this happens, this is a very bearish sign, guys. This actually is one of those things that you go, this is very bearish, because last time, very bullish, huge amounts of buying pressure. If it came down, closed through, not only would we see the first close underneath the 20 on the S&P 500 since pretty much back here when it ran in November, but at the same time, you'd be breaking underneath the buying pressure. And that is a significant kind of thing. So it's something I'm definitely looking at on the market. But I've been going into the smaller timeframes here on the market recently, just looking at the price action overall. We are struggling around this 38.60 zone. You can see it rejected again. It's kind of coming back off that level. And you can see there's some horizontal resistance here. So again, if you're a bit of a shorter term trader, possibly you can dial into some of these timeframes. You can think about what happened last time. You can see it gapped up in, closed above. There was a bit of a day trade that kind of went up into the resistance. And again, if that happened, where would we expect it to go? Back up into the trendline resistance. So very clear area of resistance around this 1862 on the 1 hour. Definitely worthwhile watching if you're on the smaller time frames on the S&P right now. Of course, that's more of a trader's perspective. From the investment perspective, we're just really looking at these two traps. And for now, everything's looking pretty bullish. If we take a look at the NASDAQ, the outperformer at the moment, strong moves here. Still the 20 moving average, just continuing to hold this particular pair up. We're getting quite far away now, and we've basically now completed that full channel. Remember, this was the distance we took from back here between the September, November lows, and we've basically completed that now. 13,000, I think 600 or just under was the target. It's reached that. Now we don't have a clear kind of direction anymore from a pattern perspective. Remember, we had that channel or range that's gone through, it's moved to the correct level, and now we would probably be expecting some form of pullback in the markets. Very interesting times here, of course, for the NASDAQ and for the S&P 500. For the week ahead, what are we looking at? Well, we've still got some big news. We've got, of course, Thursday, my time here in Australia, Wednesday in America, FOMC statement, FOMC press conference, very important for the US dollar, and of course, some information for the new year about what the FOMC is going to be doing with fund rate, etc. for the moving forward. And we've got the advanced GDP as well. That bit of information may be important because we're still a little bit unsure about how good the recovery is really looking. Will we get February jitters? Time will tell. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to, of course, subscribe and hit that like button. And we'll see you in the next video discussing the markets. Good luck to everyone that's in those stocks, like such as GameStop. But remember, this is a FOMO event. There is no doubt that this is a pump and eventually a dump. The question is, Where will it be? Who will win? Will we get 1,000 or 1,337? Let's see what the internet can get done. Bye, guys.